Welcome to the Daily Stoic Dose. As usual, for providing best Stoic content, show some love. Please subscribe and share this channel for more. There comes a moment in a man's life when something breaks, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. It's the moment he realizes that the rules he's been living by were never designed to protect him. The confusion fades, the emotional noise shuts off, and suddenly, what once controlled him no longer has power. Most men reach this moment too late. They spend years giving more, trying harder, explaining deeper, only to feel less valued the more they invest. They don't understand why effort creates distance. Why closeness seems to vanish the moment they lean in. Why love feels conditional even when it's spoken as unconditional. This isn't because they lack strength, it's because they lack clarity, and clarity is the most dangerous form of power a man can possess. Why most men feel lost even when they're trying their best. Most men aren't weak. They're unaware. They don't see the invisible patterns shaping their relationships, their emotions, and their self-worth. They mistake effort for value. They mistake consistency for loyalty. They mistake attention for intimacy, and because of that, they live inside emotional fog. They give more when they should pause. They explain when they should observe. They chase when they should stand still. And every one of these actions hands control away. The truth is uncomfortable, but necessary. Men are not taught how emotional dynamics actually work. They're taught how things should be, not how they are. The first truth most men resist accepting: affection is not always unconditional. That belief alone has broken more men than betrayal ever could. Many men grow up believing that if they love deeply, stay loyal, and remain consistent, affection will naturally remain. But real-world behavior tells a different story, one that reveals itself quietly over time. Pay attention. Warmth increases when you're strong, tone shifts when you struggle, affection fades when you lose momentum, interest returns when you regain footing. This isn't cruelty, it's conditional attachment disguised as romance. Once a man sees this pattern, something inside him stabilizes. He stops romanticizing behavior. He stops interpreting words as truth. He begins watching actions, especially during difficult moments. He no longer measures connection by how someone treats him on good days. He measures it by how they treat him when he's inconvenient. This awareness doesn't make him bitter, it makes him grounded, and grounded men are no longer easy to control. Why giving more rarely fixes anything? Here's where most men fail. When affection pulls away, they respond by increasing effort, more texting, more reassurance, more availability, more emotional exposure. They believe they're repairing the bond. In reality, they're dissolving their value, because attention is not free, attention is currency, and most men spend it recklessly. Attention, the resource that defines power. Anything that is always available becomes invisible. Attention given without intention loses weight. Affection given without boundaries becomes expected. Presence without selectivity becomes noise. Men believe constant availability builds closeness. What it actually builds is predictability. And predictable men are easy to manipulate. When a man learns to pause instead of pursue, everything changes. His silence carries more meaning than his explanations. His absence creates contrast. Contrast creates curiosity. For the first time, his presence is felt, not chased, not begged for, not negotiated, felt. The skill most men were never taught: emotional control. Emotional control is not emotional suppression, it is regulation, and it is the rarest form of masculine strength. Most men react emotionally because they were never taught another option. They seek clarity immediately, they explain themselves under pressure, they attempt to fix discomfort the moment it appears. Every reaction hands leverage to someone else. Mood shifts only work on reactive men, withdrawal only controls men who chase, silence only wounds men who fear loss. But when a man learns to remain calm, truly calm, emotional tactics lose their effect. Calm is not coldness, calm is command. It is the moment a man becomes unreadable, and unreadable men are respected. The shift from emotional destiny to emotional data, this is where transformation begins. Stop treating patterns like fate, start treating them like information. When affection fades, don't chase it. When tone changes, don't panic. When someone pulls back, don't rush to repair. Pause, observe, hold position. That pause is not weakness, that pause is power, because it is the moment you stop being playable. Why predictability is a man's greatest liability. predictable men are easy to influence. If she knows, you'll text again, you'll apologize first, you'll explain yourself, you'll chase reassurance. Then she holds emotional leverage, even unintentionally, but when your responses are measured, when your reactions are controlled, when your presence is stable, the dynamic equalizes, and equality is where respect begins, the role of options, and why most men live without them. Most men behave as if they have no alternatives. They believe, this is the only connection. This is my one chance. I can't afford to lose this. That belief poisons their posture. Desperation doesn't need words, it's felt, and desperation destroys attraction at a subconscious level. Options are not about replacing people, they are about freedom, freedom from fear, freedom from tolerance, freedom from emotional submission. Options are built, not found, through discipline, through purpose, through self-investment, through consistency. When a man has options, his energy shifts, he stops negotiating his worth, he stops tolerating disrespect, he stops clinging to those who treat him like an afterthought, and people feel this shift immediately. Self-respect, the core most men abandon first. Many men sacrifice their dignity for closeness, they tolerate excuses, they accept emotional inconsistency, they stay quiet to avoid conflict. They shrink to avoid loss, but without self-respect, a man becomes negotiable. With self-respect, he becomes solid. Boundaries are not punishments, they are rules of engagement. Cross them, and access ends. No drama, no explanation, no threats, just consequence. Respect always comes first. Everything else follows. Why emotional strength is silent. True emotional strength does not announce itself, it doesn't lecture, it doesn't threaten, it doesn't beg to be seen, it shows up in restraint, in selectivity, in consistency. A man who respects himself does not chase affection, he does not perform for approval, he does not allow emotions to be used against him, and when he lives this way, something remarkable happens. Old games stop working, silence loses its power. Emotional pressure falls flat, the dynamic collapses. The man who emerges after awareness, this man is different, he is steady, he is observant, he is selective, he does not become cold, he becomes whole. He does not detach, he disciplines himself, he does not chase, he chooses, and because of that, his presence becomes magnetic, not loud, not desperate, not reactive, magnetic. Part 2, How Emotional Games Lose Their Power. By now, something should feel different, not excitement, not anger, not motivation, stability, because once a man understands the structure beneath emotional behavior, he stops reacting to the surface, and reactions are what emotional games feed on. Why? Emotional pressure only works on certain men. Emotional pressure has one requirement: predictability. It only works when a man can be counted on to respond a certain way, to chase reassurance, to explain himself, to fix discomfort immediately. Once a man breaks that pattern, pressure collapses, silence stops being threatening, distance stops feeling personal, mood shifts stop carrying weight, not because the woman changes, because he does. The hidden mechanism behind emotional withdrawal. Withdrawal is not always manipulation, often, it's subconscious regulation. The woman pulls back when she feels too much emotional intensity, she senses imbalance, she feels she holds more leverage than she should. But here's the mistake men make: they treat withdrawal as a problem to solve. And in doing so, they confirm imbalance. Why chasing clarity destroys authority? Clarity feels comforting, but chasing it under emotional pressure exposes insecurity. Questions like, are we okay? Did I do something wrong? Why are you distant? These aren't neutral, they hand control away, because now your emotional stability depends on her response. The grounded man does not ask for clarity during instability, he creates it through consistency. The power of staying the same. Consistency is misunderstood. It doesn't mean being passive, it means being unchanged. If your energy shifts every time hers does, you are reactive. If your posture remains steady regardless of emotional fluctuation, you are anchored. Anchored men are rare, and rarity creates leverage. Why silence becomes a weapon against the unstable? Silence only hurts men who fear it. Men who need validation, require emotional feedback, depend on connection to feel whole, but silence has no effect on a man who is internally regulated. To him, silence is space, and space reveals truth, the moment emotional leverage reverses. Here's where the shift occurs, when you stop chasing emotional repair, when you stop responding to pressure, when you stop explaining yourself. The other person feels the imbalance, not consciously, viscerally, because now they can't predict you, and unpredictability disrupts control. Why emotional distance often invites return. This is not about manipulation, it's about energy. When emotional noise disappears, curiosity replaces it, not because you pulled away, but because you stopped feeding the dynamic. The nervous system seeks resolution. And calm creates gravity, the trap of overcommunication. Many men believe communication solves everything. It doesn't. Overcommunication weakens position, because it reveals urgency, and urgency suggests loss of control. The composed man speaks less, but with intention. And that makes his words heavier. Why emotional authority requires restraint. Authority is not asserted, it is assumed. Men who try to assert emotional authority lose it instantly. The man who holds authority does not react to tests, he does not rise to provocation, he does not explain himself under pressure, he allows behavior to reveal truth. Reading behavior without emotional attachment, this is critical. Observe patterns without emotional interpretation. When warmth increases only when you're useful, note it. When distance appears during your vulnerability, note it. When affection returns after you regain momentum, note it. Observation without reaction is power. Why walking away mentally is more powerful than leaving physically. Most men think power lies in leaving. It doesn't. Power lies in no longer needing. You can stay present without attachment, engaged without dependency, open without exposure. That internal detachment shifts everything. The end of emotional negotiation. Once a man stops negotiating for affection, dynamics change. He no longer accepts excuses, tolerates disrespect, shrinks to preserve connection. He becomes selective. And selectivity communicates value. The psychological weight of self-control. Self-control creates gravity. People lean toward what feels stable. When your emotional state is no longer influenced by external behavior, you become an anchor. Anchors are not chased, they are returned to. Why most men never reach this stage? Because it requires discipline, not avoidance, not coldness, not bitterness. Discipline. The discipline to sit with discomfort, the discipline to resist reaction, the discipline to hold your position. Most men cannot tolerate that tension, so they react, and remain controlled. Part 3. The man who no longer moves. At this stage, something fundamental changes, not in how others treat you, but in how you experience yourself. You stop feeling pulled, stop feeling pressured. Stop feeling the urge to react, and that inner stillness becomes your strongest signal. The final illusion men must let go of. Most men believe emotional strength means being unaffected. It doesn't. Emotional strength means being affected without being controlled. You still feel, you still notice, you still register shifts, but they no longer decide your behavior, and behavior is where power lives. Why self-respect ends all confusion. Confusion only exists when boundaries are unclear. The man with self-respect does not ask, where do I stand? Does she like me? What should I do next? He watches behavior, and behavior either aligns, or it doesn't. No drama. No discussion, no negotiation, just alignment or distance. The identity shift that changes everything. Here's the shift most men never make. You stop seeing connection as something to protect. You see it as something to qualify. Not everyone deserves access to your attention. Not everyone earns your emotional presence. Not everyone gets your consistency. And once this becomes internal truth, dynamics reorder themselves. Why emotional availability must be earned, unrestricted. Availability signals need, selective availability signals value. This doesn't mean playing games, it means having standards. You are warm, but not open to chaos, present, but not tolerant of instability, engaged, but not dependent. That balance is rare, and rarity creates attraction without effort. The calm that makes others nervous. There is a specific calm that unsettles people, not arrogance, not distance, grounded neutrality. When someone cannot provoke a reaction, cannot rush your decisions, cannot destabilize your mood, they feel exposed. Because emotional leverage only exists when reactions are guaranteed. Why women test men who matter. Testing is not cruelty, it's calibration, a subconscious question, can I move you? Most men answer without realizing it, they explain, they chase, they react. The man who passes does nothing dramatic, he remains consistent, and consistency under pressure communicates strength louder than words. The moment you stop explaining yourself, explanation is often a plea in disguise, a plea to be understood, a plea to be accepted, a plea to keep connection alive. The grounded man explains once, calmly. If misunderstanding continues, he does not argue, he adjusts access. Why detachment is not coldness, detachment is clarity. You stop projecting meaning, stop imagining intention, stop filling silence with fear, you take behavior at face value, and reality becomes simple. Simple is powerful, the silent line you never cross again. There is a line inside you now, you don't announce it, you don't threaten with it, you don't warn anyone, but once crossed, you disengage emotionally, not with anger, not with punishment, with peace, and peace is irreversible. Why walking away feels different now? Before, walking away felt like loss, now it feels like alignment. You're not leaving to be missed. You're leaving because something no longer fits. That internal certainty changes everything, the man who is chosen without chasing. Here's the paradox most men never understand: the less you chase emotional certainty, the more emotionally certain you become; the less you seek validation, the more your presence validates itself; the less you fear loss, the less loss occurs. Final truth most men avoid: you don't become powerful by controlling outcomes, you become powerful by controlling yourself, your reactions, your standards, your availability, your emotional investment. Once those are anchored, nothing outside you can destabilize you. Final message, ending hook: if someone feels confused around you now, if your calm unsettles them, if your silence carries weight, it's not because you changed tactics, it's because you changed identity. And once identity shifts, no emotional game can touch you again.